It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Yankees suck. Jets got to make me proud Thursday. Knicks are rolling. It's good times, sort of.
The Yankees are brutal unless Garrett Cole's pitching. Besides that, they are among the worst teams in baseball. Their lineup looks disgusting. That whole high-powered offense, they do not have enough lefties in that lineup, and just not enough contact hitters. It's too many high strikeout guys, which is not an efficient way to win games. And then the rotation is just a disaster outside of Garrett Cole.
Yeah, I mean,
if you think about it, they lost Paxton, Sevy, and Tanaka in 1 year. And if you're going to lose 3 starters, just like that, your team's not going to be very good.
And they replaced them with Kluber, who pitched like 1 inning last year. Tyon, who was coming off Tommy John. It's just throw up, to put it nicely.
In terms of today's show, we're going to be talking about the NFL draft. We'll be touching on, is this the best version of Steph Curry, better than the 2016 version of himself? Who should be the MVP right now in the NBA? And then to wrap up, did Madison Bumgarner, I can't even even saying this, actually throw a no-hitter? But to start off, let's talk about the NFL draft. The NFL draft's coming up Thursday. We know Trevor Lawrence is going to go number 1. We probably know that Zach Wilson will go number 2 to the Jets. But I want to touch on the start at the number 3 pick, the San Francisco 49ers. What's their best way to go about this in terms of a win now situation? Do you trade Jimmy Garoppolo? Is he going to get traded in the next 48 hours or so? Is Trey Lance the guy? Is Mac Jones the guy? Justin Fields? What do you think the 49ers should approach this draft in the next 48 hours?
This is a question that I've been, pondering, for weeks now. And not just because I'm a 49ers fan or anything, but because the rumor is that they're going to take Mac Jones at 3. Like, this was a guy 2 months ago where people were saying, he's probably like a mid to first round, ceiling pick. But now they have him in the top 3. Like, I just think that's nuts. If I were the 49ers, I think I would go with Fields. I think he's a tough competitor, played in a good conference. Yeah, I know the weaknesses about him. We've been hearing about it since they lost in the title game. But I think Fields could step right in and change the dynamic of that offense. Yes, Jimmy G did get them to a Super Bowl, but I wouldn't trade him just yet. I would have him as like your plan B, but I would go Fields, plug him in week 1. I just don't see the hype around Mac Jones. Maybe I'm just missing something. Maybe I'm missing why Fields has been, slandered through the media. Now they're saying Trey Lance, but I think with Lance, he needs to sit a year before you give him the keys to the position. But I just don't know what San Francisco is going to do. I want to sit here and say it's all smoke screens, but the last time I did that was when the Browns took Baker number 1 overall. So at this point, who the hell knows?
Paying Jimmy Garoppolo all the money that they did, at that point, I don't know why you would keep him to be a backup quarterback. Maybe you want to mentor the young guy for a year or so. Them moving up in the draft is a little mind-boggling to me in the first place. I mean, if you want to make a big splash, throw everybody off and get a Devonta Smith at the number 3 pick, I mean, that would change the entire dynamic of the draft, and it would make that offense way more explosive. When they were in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, and yeah, they were about a play away from winning that Super Bowl, if they could get a guy who is a superstar talent on the outside for Jimmy G after paying him all that money, Devonta Smith could be that guy. I will not rule out that option. Will he go there? The odds are highly stacked against it, but Trey Lance and Mac Jones, I don't understand where their draft value got so high. I don't recall when that happened because throughout the season it was not talked about. It was obviously Trevor Lawrence, who's the big name. He's going to be the next Peyton Manning, just a little bit more mobile. And then you had Justin Fields, who is coming out of Ohio State, even though Ohio State's not really built for establishing quarterbacks, especially NFL quarterbacks. But the way Fields is built, the way that they won a playoff game, they made it to the championship. I mean, the way he's proved himself, he's shown more promise that he can be an NFL starting quarterback, let alone an elite starting quarterback. But the thing with Mac Jones, where is this coming from? And again, Alabama, any other position on the field, they probably will. Nick Saban will grow them as great as any position, as any player. from any other college. But in terms of the quarterback position, Alabama's always struggling with quarterbacks. And then Tua Tagovailoa, I mean, everyone was so high on him. Tua's going to be that guy. I'm personally just not fond of lefty quarterbacks. Their spiral is naturally different. They have a downwards tail, and then the spiral is just like reverse. It doesn't feel natural to catch, and their mechanics are a little off. It's one thing in baseball when you have a lefty. Lefties are way more high value because you get the tail. You want to throw hitters off. You got the natural tail. You got a little extra late life. With football, you want to have the prettiest throw you can, the prettiest spiral you can, this and that. And then Tua was that guy coming out of Alabama who, this is finally going to be an Alabama quarterback who really is that successful. And honestly, I think personally he's a little overrated. So I don't really know where this hype came from, Mac Jones. But if I'm the San Francisco 49ers, I'm going to make a big splash and really change the dynamic and throw everyone off and go Devontae Smith. Or you got to go Trey Lance because I don't think Mac Jones is going to be an NFL caliber quarterback, even though he's going to be drafted very high in this draft.
Yeah, the only reasoning I could think of the 49ers for picking Jones is that they believe, for whatever reason, Jones fits their system best out of Lance, Fields, and Jones. That's the only reasoning I can give. Because when you look at it, yeah, you always want to get, the highly talented, quarterback in the draft. But if the system is not there, they're going to flop. Like, take Patrick Mahomes, for example. If Patrick Mahomes got drafted by the Jets, do you think he would be what he is today? Absolutely not. As talented as he is, the Jets would have ruined them. The same thing with Lamar Jackson. People were saying, the Jets should have took him. Yeah, but do you think Lamar Jackson would be Lamar Jackson if he was on the Jets with Adam Gase as his head coach? Absolutely not. So it's all about scheme and the team built around him. So I guess the 49ers feel, listen, we could plug Mac Jones in. He's, I guess, an upgrade over Jimmy. If I don't even know if I could even say that truthfully as of today. But I guess that's what the 49ers feel, that he's an upgrade over Jimmy who fits their system best and can take them back to the Super Bowl and even win one. So I don't know what reasoning other than that I could think of. That's the only thing. I'm speechless. I don't even know how to formulate sentences right now because it's just astonishing that Fields went from a QB2 to now possibly falling out of the top 10. It's just crazy. But if somehow Fields ends up with New England, I'm going to be very, very upset.
In terms of Jimmy Garoppolo, can you see him getting traded in the next 48 hours? And if you do, is that in their best interest to trade him?
I think he could be traded depending on how the draft unfolds. And what I mean by that is you have a couple of teams down towards the end of the first round, the Washington football team, the Bears. They're going to need a quarterback. I can't sit here and say, the football team's going to go with Fitzpatrick and Heineke, to start the season. And I don't know if the Bears are going to go with Dalton and Foles. That's just mind-boggling. So I think those are teams that could look to bring in another quarterback. I don't know if they're really, I don't know if Jimmy G is that, that much of a upgrade. But I think teams that are just maybe looking for even like a backup, maybe, I don't know, Miami. I really don't know. Maybe New England, but I don't see how they're bringing in Jimmy when they already have Cam. So it's going to – I think it just falls down to which team ends up without a seat on the dance floor with the quarterbacks. You look at Denver, maybe they go after Jimmy G and they don't want to trade up and whatnot. Carolina, maybe they get rid of Bridgewater, they bring in Jimmy G instead. I think we got to see what teams are basically left standing once the quarterbacks start going, because there are a couple of other quarterbacks that aren't getting much hype because they're all right, like Kellen Mond, Kyle Trask. It's going to be very interesting to see which route teams go.
Why would Carolina already gave up the assets to get Sam Darnold? So now they have Bridgewater, Darnold, and why would they try to get Jimmy G? Then you have basically 3 starting quarterbacks, and Jimmy G's so expensive. How much they pay him? Why would that make sense to trade for Jimmy G?
Well, here's why. I think they want to get rid of Bridgewater without a doubt. So they could, trade him. You bring in Jimmy G, let him compete with Sam. Carolina still hasn't picked up Sam's 5th-year option yet, and I think they're waiting to see how the draft unfolds before they make that commitment. So, like I said, competition is probably the greatest thing that teams are going to be looking for. Even look at Philly. Yeah, Jalen Hurts is what we all predict to be their QB1 going to next year, but they're not committed to him. They haven't come out and said, this is our guy, going forward. I think every team's going to look towards bringing in, a veteran presence to compete. So maybe the Jets swing a trade for Jimmy G, to be Zach Wilson's backup. Who the hell knows? But I think it all comes down to who goes where. Right? We know the first 2 picks. We know it's Lawrence and Wilson. After that, who the hell knows who's going to be trading up, to nab a quarterback. Maybe a team like Chicago takes a gamble and takes, a Davis Mills, at 20, so there isn't what's the word I'm looking for? The QB room is like a cluster. I don't want to say the additional word because I don't want to get kicked off the air. It's just a big cluster. So it all comes down to who's going to go where, and that's the biggest question. I think that's why there's so much hype around this draft is because it's not, so laid out. It's, can offensive linemen make a run in the middle of the teens in the first round? Can the cornerbacks, go starting at 10 with Dallas? Are the running backs going to be taken in Harris and ETN? There's just so many question marks. Nobody knows what any team is going to do. So when it comes to the quarterbacks, that's the most important position in the league. So after Lawrence and Wilson, it's all a flip of the coin, which I'm shocked because we're only 2 days away from the draft and we still don't have any answers.
In terms of the NFL draft and in terms of blockbuster trades, Jimmy Garoppolo is one of them. But there's a bigger fish in the pond that could possibly be traded, and that is Julio Jones. What do you think the Atlanta Falcons what do you think they're really trying to get out of trading Julio Jones at age 32? He's been dealing with injuries, but been regarded, especially in his prime, as if not the best receiver in this league. Does this really mean that the Falcons are ready to tear this whole thing apart and start from scratch? And how much really can the Falcons get for Julio?
I don't think it's them, trying to do a full-on rebuild. I think it's just the reallocating of assets. It's probably going to be a flat cap. Julio makes a ton of money. So I think it's just them trying to clear out, a little bit of cap because they still have Matt Ryan on the contract. And I think the emergence of Calvin Ridley and being in position to take, a Kyle Pitts at 4 allows them, to maneuver a little bit and get rid of Julio. I mean, I don't want to say get rid of because it's not like Julio is a bad player, but he has been injury prone of late. So I think, and he's on the wrong side of 30. So I think it's just them, trying to move on, trying to create a little cap space. And I don't think any team's going to give a 1 for him considering the age and his contract situation, but I could definitely see a 2, maybe 2 2s, maybe a 2 and a conditional pick at the very least. But I do think they end up with a 2.
I think without question they get 2 second-round picks. I think some teams, they can pull off a late first-round pick. I think actually they definitely could get a late first-round pick. Teams in the bottom, towards the back of the draft, winning teams who want to win now, if you could plug in, say, your first – when you're in the back of the draft and you're in the 25 to 32 range, you made the playoffs and you probably won a playoff game, and you did win a playoff game at that point. Plugging in a Julio – and replacing that with your first round pick, you have to look at it as you drafted Julio Jones at age 32 with your first round pick. Those late first round picks, let's call a spade a spade. How promising is that? How much do you really know? At least we've seen what Julio is. I understand the injuries are a big factor, but you could draft someone with the 27th overall pick as a total bust. So I think Julio Jones still at this age, what we've seen from him is still worth a first round pick. Obviously, teams in the top 10, top 15 are not going to be trading for Julio. Those are guys who need more quarterbacks, are more on the rebuild side. But the teams who already made the playoffs are absolutely looking at a Julio Jones like, we could plug him in, and now we are a championship team. That was our missing piece to win a championship, or at least compete for one. And I think Julio would be that guy. So definitely 2 2s I think is realistic. but I think they could definitely try to push the case to get a late first-round pick, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, if we look at playoff teams, I think the team that screams the most is the Ravens. They never really gave Lamar a true number one. His best receiver is Hollywood Brown, and he's not number one on a Super Bowl caliber team. So I think if they can make the money work somehow, I'm not really too up to date on the cap situation with everything, but I think the Ravens make a ton of sense. You look at other playoff teams, maybe the 49ers make a swing. Who else? The Packers, certainly, but I don't think the Falcons are going to want to trade, within the conference. I think this is where you send Julio to the AFC. If he ends up with the Chiefs, I think we should just not watch football next year. But that's definitely not going to work money-wise. Maybe teams that are just looking to get over the hump. Maybe Tennessee, pair them up with A.J. Brown. They just lost Corey Davis. Who else? Maybe the Colts, give another weapon. They have a really nice team, I think. But I think it all comes down to who can make the money work at the end. Maybe Buffalo does it. Pair him up with Stephon Diggs, give Josh Allen even more help. But I don't think it's going to happen until the Falcons can maximize their cap savings. I think if they trade them after June 1st, they save like $15 million or something. I could be wrong on that. So I think that's when we're going to see a trade happen.
In terms of a first-round pick for Julio Jones, a few teams that you said I can absolutely see giving up a first-round pick. These are teams that I would give up my first-round pick this year for Julio if we're not even just talking money, if we're just talking straight football. Kansas City Chiefs, we're doing the second. We'd give up that 31st pick for Julio Jones. Tennessee Titans would be an awesome addition. Ryan Tannehill, who's not the greatest quarterback in the world, I still believe is a product of Derrick Henry. And if you throw in a Julio Jones there for, again, they're probably I forget exactly their number, but they're in the mid-ish, high 20s. I think that would be a great option. The Baltimore Ravens, give Lamar Jackson a real weapon. He's a guy who's not really that talented when it comes to throwing the football. Give him a true number one of a Julio Jones. Teams like that, I would give the Green Bay Packers another one. I would give them a first-round pick in a second. Teams who are looking to win now should absolutely trade one first-round pick for Julio, and then maybe a couple back ends, and I'd still do that in a second. What do you think about that?
I agree, but I think the problem that hurts the Falcons is that it's a deep wide receiver class. So I don't think teams are going to be willing to give up maybe that high of a pick when they can get, a cheaper receiver still on this rookie deal later on in the draft. So that's why I think it's probably going to happen after the draft. But, I don't know. A 1 for 30. I just don't think that works in the NFL. Yeah, obviously Julio is Julio freaking Jones. We've seen this guy, put up productive season after productive season. But I don't think I just can't see any team, giving up a 1 unless, you have a Kansas City who picks at 31, but they already traded their pick. But I just can't see. And usually playoff teams, are usually strapped up cap-wise. So it might be a team that's, on the verge, of the playoff line looking to make that next step, like you said. So maybe even Miami, maybe they pass up, on a receiver with the 6th pick, and they make a move for Julio. Maybe they view Julio as a better option than, a Jamar Chase or Devonta Smith or a Jalen Waddle. So I think it all falls onto what happens during the draft Thursday night. Because, when you look at even the Jets, the Jets could use a Julio. They have a lot of cap, but they're not in that win now mode. So I think the Falcons are going to have to wait it out. And the Falcons, maybe they don't want to take Kyle Pitts and they decide to hold on to Julio, or they want to keep Julio and add Kyle Pitts with Calvin Ridley, let Matt Ryan, do his thing. Everything's a question mark now. I don't want to sit here and give, false hope for anything, but I think we all everything's frozen until the draft happens. And it's such a big event that's all we can do.
Last thing before we move on, the Zach Wilson, is that the beginning to turn the Jets franchise around?
Listen. when the Jets won against the Rams and I was done, having a mini stroke, I said to myself, all right, I think I could live with Justin Wilson as a consolation prize. Maybe stick with Sam, trade out of the pick, get a bunch of help from him and whatnot. But I do like Wilson. I think, even though he comes from, the middle of nowhere in Utah, he just has that moxie towards him. I don't know how to explain it, but I think he'll handle New York fine. I hope he's the answer at this point. I feel like I'm in like a twilight zone of, quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. But like I said earlier, I think it all comes down to the system. And if LaFleur believes that Wilson fits his system best and Joe Douglas knows that Wilson can handle New York, because New York's a whole different ball game than the rest of the country. I just think he has it. He has that big smile, kind of like a Francisco Lindor smile that we can see on the back pages. So they already got the nicknames rolling: the Mormon Mahomes, the Wilson of Wall Street. So bring on Zach.
I want to touch on the NBA a little bit. Steph Curry broke the record in April for hitting 85 three-pointers. That is the most in the NBA history for one player to hit threes in a single month. And I'm pretty sure he hit more three-pointers than any team did in the month of April, which is pretty ridiculous, to say the least. So today I ask, is this the best version of Steph Curry?
Honestly, I don't know. I think I say that because we've seen Steph Curry do it time and time again. He has these stretches where he is just like above everyone else, and it seems like he just can't miss a shot. Like, I will never forget, I forgot what game it was a couple of years ago where he like hit like a buzzer beater pulling up from like maybe three-quarters court. It's like, this guy is unbelievable. Like he changed the game. But is this the best? I want to say yes, just because of the team around him. You know what I mean? He hasn't had Clay all year. Draymond is Draymond. Wiggins is all right. Wiseman is hurt, and I believe he's still out, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just really the Steph Curry show with no supporting cast. And it's just amazing what this guy is doing. But I don't know if this is the best I've ever seen, because we've seen him go on runs before where he's done this. Like this is when he's playing at his best level. He can do this, and I wouldn't be surprised he does this again next year and the year before that and the year before that. This guy can just flat out shoot, and I think that's the best ability for him, because he doesn't need to do much. He doesn't need to drive to the hoop to get his buckets. He can come off a screen, pop one, bang, three, boom, boom. He can score quick. So I guess because he hasn't had anybody to, co-pilot with him, that this is the best. But you can make the argument for and against it, and I wouldn't say that you're wrong in any way. I mean, what we're seeing is just magical. I don't know if he's going to win the MVP, but he's having a terrific season, and I hope he can get into the playoffs, because I would like to see him go on a little bit of a run.
This is the best stretch of Steph's career. The month of April has been the best version of him, but in terms of the best season, this is not. 2015, 2016, winning the unanimous MVP was the best version of Steph Curry. Let's not be a prisoner of the moment. Not only did the Warriors go 73-9, I mean, he did this on a night-to-night basis, winning games. The numbers are very similar. And in 2016, and he did not have to carry nearly the burden he did now. That we have to take that into consideration. The numbers really are close to identical. I mean, 2016, he averaged 30 a game. Now he's averaging 31. But, I mean, I think it's in the past, 12 games, he's averaging over, 40 points. I don't know off the top of my head if he was doing that in 2016. He had that stretch. But I just know then it was a consistent night in, night out. I mean, at one point, he broke the record for number of threes in a game. He shattered his record for most threes in a season from the year before when he won MVP. And he was the unanimous MVP, the only player in NBA history to win unanimous MVP. He may win MVP this year, but he's not going to be the unanimous one. So with that being said, winning unanimous MVP, being the only player in NBA history, that's the best version of him. But I will give him that this stretch is the best version of himself. That he has hit more threes than any other team has, which is just mind-boggling. I mean, the way he could pull up in traffic from 40 feet away, that's what he's doing right now. The second he hits half court with the ball in his hands, he's a threat. If he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's a threat. I do believe right now he's making his case for MVP, but in terms of the best version of himself, no, this is the best stretch of his career. Not necessarily the best version of a totality of a season.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, no, you're wrong. I mean, you can make the argument for this year, or you can make it for the 2016 stuff. I think at the end of the day, we've seen him do this and time again. So yes, he's on an incredible stretch. This is definitely not his best season. I agree with you 100% on that. But that's also because he got hurt earlier on. He wasn't, putting up the performances like he was now. So definitely, 2015, 2016 was his best run. But to say if this is his best version stretch-wise, you can definitely make the case here or there. But it's just so beautiful to see. Like, I enjoy when players, perform to the best of their abilities and go on this run. Kind of like what James Harden did when he scored, 30 points for like an entire month?
32 games in a row, he scored 30 points. And in that stretch, I think he had a 60, 15, and 15. No, a 60-point triple-double, 4 50-point games. One of those were a 50, 15, and 15 game, and 14 40-point games in a stretch of 30 games, which was ridiculous. Or 32 games.
Yeah, and like I said, it's so entertaining, and it brings up good talking points because you could compare, Steph Curry this season to 2015, 2016, like you said. You can compare it to, the James Harden stretch, which stretch is better. And I think it's just good for the game because we like to see star players perform well. It sucks when they get injured. It's devastating. But when they can perform to the best of their abilities, it's a fantastic sight to watch. When Mike Trout gets up and homers, in 7 straight games, that's great. That's what we want to see. We want to see the best players do the best things. And we're in for a treat every night. Steph laces them up and steps onto that floor. And I'm so glad that, that he didn't pack it up kind of like what Kevin Love is doing in Cleveland. And I would like to see the fight in Steph. He knows he needs to take over for the Warriors to have a chance, and that's what he's doing. So I agree with you that maybe 2015, 2016 was better, but I think it's more fascinating because he's doing it by himself.
The reason, not to take any credit away, but the reason why his numbers are – no, I don't want to say inflated, but similar to 2016 is because he's asked to do more. Me personally, if I go to play in a JV basketball game, my numbers will skyrocket because I am asked to do more. If I'm playing on a collegiate level, or if I'm playing at a collegiate level right now, I'm not going to be asked to do nearly as much. Therefore, my production will not be the same. Therefore, my numbers will not be the same. That's a little bit of a very widespread analogy. But you get the point. If you're asked to do more, being that type of talent, you're going to naturally put up better numbers. Steph needs to play 40 minutes a game and drop 40-plus points for this team to be 500, which they are now. They were a borderline 500 team. That's why his numbers are so great, is because he doesn't have a sidekick in Klay Thompson. Draymond Green is, I don't want to say overrated, but his best days are behind them. There's no second option on this team. They have some okay role players. Kelly Oubre is okay. Draymond Green is okay. Andrew Wiggins is okay. But you don't have a sniper in your backcourt like a Klay Thompson that you can lean on. Draymond in 2016 used to be able to score. Iguodala was a good player in 2016. This year's Warriors are just clearly nowhere near that team. Steph is asked to do more. He is producing, and he's helping this team be borderline 500 and maybe make a playoff push. This team is not very good at all. This is the best little run he's had in his career, but in terms of totality of a season, no way. Because I don't remember Steph. I can't think of two or three bad games Steph had in the entire 2016 season. Earlier this year, he's had plenty of games where he could not buy a basket. where he'd shoot 1 for 11 from 3-point range. He would have games where he would score like 15 points. He would have those games. But as of late, I mean, he's averaging over 40. So sure. I'm going to wrap up this topic with this is the hottest he's ever been, but it's not the best season of his career. But I want to flip to a very similar topic here. Who should win MVP as we stand today? We got Embiid, even though he missed time. We got Jokic making his case. Steph Curry, obviously, as we were just talking about. And some people want to say CP3. Who's the MVP?
If I was biased, I would say Chris Paul or Julius Randle, just because I'm a Knicks fan and I'm a big Chris Paul fan. But what Jokic is doing for Denver without Jamal Murray is fantastic. This guy, he could finish the year averaging a triple-double. If he increases his, free throw percentage, he could finish with 50, 40, 90, which is amazing for a big man. So I think Jokic is the front runner at this moment. I think the 76ers being overtaken for the top seed by the Nets hurts Embiid, but I just don't see how you don't give it to Jokic with the kind of season that he's having.
Oh, you have to be a top 2 seed to win MVP. Everyone loves that narrative. I personally don't. Let's look at the word valuable. Who's bringing the most value to their team? Embiid is having a great season, the best year of his career. Your best ability is your availability. He did miss an extended period of time. Let's take that into account. Jokic, sure, again, having a 50, 40, 90 season. Close to 9 assists a game. The last center to win MVP was Shaquille O'Neal, and now there's 2 guys who are in the runnings. But Steph Curry is the most valuable player in basketball today. This team was the worst team in basketball last year without him and Klay Thompson. Steph is back, and now they are a borderline 500 team. But look what he's doing to get them wins. He's giving you 40-plus a night, pulling up from half court in traffic on a step-back 3. I mean, how else could you think anyone else is more valuable than Steph Curry right now? He's giving you everything and more you could ask in a player, and it's barely getting the job done. Teams win games, not players. And with that being said, Steph Curry is the most valuable player in this league.
Yes and no. Yes, you are right where it shouldn't be, the best player on the best team. Yes, Curry is highly valuable, but then you can also make the case for Chris Paul using the same logic. The Suns, they were a bubble team last year, and I know they went undefeated in the bubble and whatnot, and now they're, one of the best teams in the NBA, and I think it's because of Chris Paul. He's elevated Booker's game. He's elevated his own game. I watched him torch the Knicks last night and, stabbed me right in my heart, because it ended a 9-game winning streak and would have been a big win for them. So you can make the case for Chris Paul. You can make, the case for Curry, like you said. You can even make the case for Julius Randle. If Randle wasn't having the season he's having, are the Knicks really, fourth in the East right now? I don't think so. They're probably on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs. So you can we know it's most valuable player, but nobody ever uses valuable anymore. It's always about who puts up the best stats on the best team, and that's why I think Jokic is going to win. I think Embiid missing time is going to hurt him, and Philly kind of fading. I know they're not fading, but they're no longer the 1 seed. So I think it's going to go to Jokic, and Jokic is performing without Jamal Murray. When Embiid was out, did the 76ers, flop? Not really. If you take Jokic off the Nuggets, especially without Jamal Murray, are they one of the better teams in the West? I don't think so. Donovan Mitchell, you can even make the case he should be MVP. But they kind of keep on winning, and I know they lost to the Timberwolves, but the Jazz, keep on winning games without these players. So that's when you look at, what is valuable, what's not valuable. It's a big argument, I know, but they never go by the word valuable and what it means. So in that case, I think it's just going to go to Jokic because he's a top player on a top team, and he's having a phenomenal season. I hope he wins it. He's a great player, one of my favorites. He's probably one of the best passing big men in the league. So I'm giving it to Jokic.
That's going to wrap up our NBA coverage. One last topic. Madison Bumgarner throws a no-hitter in a 7-inning game. Did he throw a no-hitter?
Yes, he threw a no-hitter. The game ended. The Braves had 0 hits. That's a no-hitter. I don't care if it's it's not a 9-inning game. That's what it is, all right? If you want to play an asterisk, fine. But it's still a no-hitter. How do you not credit the guy for, pitching 7 no-hit innings? It's not like, he did it and then got pulled for the game or something. He pitched a complete game. And the game ended with no hits. Like, it's facts. I don't understand the concept behind how it's not a no-hitter. If he didn't, pitch a no-hitter and he gave a 1 run like Zach Gallen did in the first game, is that not a complete game shutout? Like, I don't understand why the rules are twisted. If a player comes up, hits 3 home runs, do we say that, it's not a 3-homer game because he only did it in 7 innings? Like, I don't understand the concepts. Are rules not the same because the game is shortened? If the MLB has such a problem with this, then why did you make 7-inning doubleheaders? I don't understand Rob Manfred's issue with this. Why is this even a talking point? There are other issues within the game. Why are we arguing over 7-inning, doubleheaders and everything? When you have the man on second, to start extra innings and he scores, and like, do we mix up stats? Is that now not an RBI? Is that not a run scored? Like, why are we having all these different rules now? Just go with the facts. That's all I can say. Madison Bumgarner pitched the whole game. The game ended. The Diamondbacks won. At the end of the game, he was the only pitcher, and he gave up no hits. That's a no-hitter. Simple as that.
Kind of hit the nail on the head. Madison Bumgarner literally threw a no-hitter. He did not make the rules that these games will now be 7 innings. MLB did. And Rob Manfred, who is saying that this is not a no-hitter, literally made this rule. So I don't know what he's trying to get at, which is pretty ridiculous. If you look at – I played high school baseball. I played college baseball. In high school, we played 7-inning games. If I pitched the whole game and did not let up a hit, that is a no-hitter. Sure, we have to just put things into context. It's not just black and white, yes or no. But Madison Bumgarner threw a 7-inning no-hitter. Is it as valuable as a 9-inning no-hitter? Absolutely not. The last 6 outs are the toughest outs to get in a no-hitter. It's just nearly not as much pressure pitching the 6th and 7th as you do the 8th and 9th. Hitters are seeing you more. There's more guys are going to see you guaranteed a third time around. So with that being said, of course, it's not going to be as valuable as a 9-inning no-hitter, but it's still a no-hitter. He pitched start to finish without giving up a single hit. That is the definition of a no-hitter. When we look at the history books, if you look back at it, and we look at his resume, yeah, you could say he threw a no-hitter, but in parentheses, it's 7 innings. It is what it is. It's not a knock against him. It's just what the circumstances were. He threw a no-hitter. If Rob Manfred wants to discredit anyone who throws a perfect game or a no-hitter in a 7-inning game, he shouldn't have made the rule to begin with. You just have to put context behind what you're saying. It's just not the same as a 9-inning no-hitter, but it is still a no-hitter at the end of the day.
Yeah, I completely agree. And think about it from Bumgarner's case. Can you imagine having the Hall of Fame career that you have, and you've been struggling, even to start the season, he looked pretty bad. And now, he's starting to turn around, and he goes and he pitches a no-hitter, and then, somebody comes up to him and says, no, you didn't. Just think about that. It's so stupid. I do not understand. Call it for what it is. It's a no-hitter. He did not give up a hit over the course of the game. Yes, you can say, it's not black and white and everything, but call it for what it is. Madison Bumgarner threw a 7-inning no-hitter. How is that statement not factual? I don't understand. If you threw a perfect game, even though it's 7 innings, how is that not a perfect game? That's a bowl game. You went the whole bowl game. Just because it was 7 innings just doesn't mean anything. So then put the asterisks, do whatever you want, but call it for what it is. I don't even know why this is a pressing need. I don't know why Elias and the MLB, is reviewing it now. The guy threw a no-hitter. Give him his props. This is a World Series champion. This guy is Mr. Game 7, pitching-wise. But this is who he is. Give the guy his flowers. I just don't understand it. He threw a no-hitter. Not many people throw no-hitters. All right, Madison Bumgarner, this is another accolade to his impressive resume. Give the guy the no-hitter.
For sure. It's a no-hitter. It's just not as high valued, and there's just context behind it. People, there's also a debate in baseball. What do you feel more pressured? The ninth inning of a perfect game / a no-hitter, or the first inning of a postseason game? That ninth inning just has is just a different feel and a different vibe to it. Again, not having those last 6 outs, you have to work more. You have to have more pitches. You got to sit between innings 2 more times. So, of course, it does matter at the end of the day. But he did what he did, and that is a no-hit. That is a no-hitter at the end of the day. But I mean, we definitely had to cover that because that is now a hot topic going around. That it's not a no-hitter.
But to go off what you just said, the last 3 outs are the hardest to get. What do you think he did in the seventh inning? Did he not get the last 3 outs? It's not like the game. No, I know, but I'm saying, but it's not like the game got stopped and they're gonna play the extra 2 innings at another point. He still went out there and pitched in the final inning of the game. He had that same pressure. I'm sure he had on his mind that, hey, I have a no-hitter going. I'm sure nobody went up to him in the dugout, and talked to him like how we always see when a pitcher has a perfecto going or a no-hitter. So he still went out there. He had the pressure to go out and get those final 3 outs, and he did it. So it's every reasoning to make the excuse that Bumgarner shouldn't have, a no-hitter is just stupid. It's a no-hitter. That's it.
For sure. I'll give him he threw a no-hitter. It's just not necessarily as impressive or just as that context is a 9-inning game. It doesn't. You got to call spade a spade. But that's going to wrap up today's show. Chuck, always a pleasure you coming on Talk Sports with me. Thanks for coming on.
No problem, pal. Thank you for having me.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.